Hey there, Board Game Brody here with Let's Table It, where we get games to the table like this copy here of Canopy Evergreen by Weird City Games. It's a card game mixed with, you have a player board to add in new mechanics into the game that lets you play up to 4 players, as the original Canopy game is a 2-player game only. You each will have this player board where you will be expanding your trees, gaining new ones, even growing your trees higher on your board. Whenever you have 2 trees that connect a path, and those trees are completed with a top on it, and one of the 2 trees is 3 sections tall or taller, then you gain the token between them. These tokens can be rain or sun, or can be a card type to help you gain points or trigger abilities on your cards. At the end of the season, there are 3 total seasons in the game, but at the end of each one, whoever has the tallest tree will win points, and that tree that wins cannot win any of the future seasons' trees. And that's the player board part, but a lot of this game is with the cards. So you will have wildlife cards and you have forest cards. At the beginning of your turn, you will have the choice to spend food to attract wildlife. There are 3 available face-up cards, each with the food cost on the top left. These animals can give you different types of bonuses listed on the bottom of their card. There might be, the same animals with different listed abilities in them, and you can have multiple of these same animals, and you might want to because they'll give you additional points by doing so. But some might give you an active ability that is in text. Another might give you a way to score additional points by foraging for the listed items shown on that card, or you can gain straight up points that are shown straight up on that card. The other thing you should know about these wildlife cards is that if you are able to connect them with the icons shown on the bottom left and right with other wildlife cards, then you will gain additional points for doing so. And the last thing is you can gain food from different forest cards as you gain those, so that you can then gain the wildlife. So then after deciding if you want to pay food for one of the available wildlife cards, you will then pivot to the forest cards. There are 3 piles in front of each player, and you will then pick up the pile on the left and look at them. You will eventually pick one of these piles to take, but you only get to see 1 pile at a time. And after moving to the next, you cannot go back. So from left to right, you will look at the cards. If you don't want them, then you need to put them back. Take the top card off the top of the forest deck and add it to that pile, and then move on to the next pile. Again, you will look at them. If you want them, you can take them. If not, you place them back, place a new card face down on top of the pile without looking at it, and on to the last pile. If you don't want the last pile, again, place another card on top without looking at that card, and then you can take the top card from the deck. That's how you will pick cards out from the forest deck. And when choosing a pile, you take all the cards there to place in your own forest. Now let's go over some of these cards. Any plant, weather, or threat cards will be placed with their matching cards in your forests. If it has a lightning bolt, it has an immediate effect. Sun and rain are weather, and you will be collecting those. You want to collect the same amount of each, as each pair of rain and sun will score you 1 point per set at the end of each season. Also, the player with the most sets gets 5 additional points, and the player with the second most scores 2 additional points. Tree cards come in different varieties, but you will be adding the indicated section to your forest. You will find the cardboard section to add to a tree on your player board, and then discard the card. Root or trunk cards can be used to start a new tree and can be placed on any open space with a tree icon on your map. Trunk sections are added to your existing trees, making them taller, and canopies are the top sections and will finish the tree off to score you points immediately. You'll gain points according to the tree's height and the value of the canopy used to complete it. So you will see the value of the canopy and multiply that by its height. That's how you get the points. You will keep track of the points with the 1 and the 10 point system here on your map board, on your player board, and you'll keep track of it individually. The Pine Cone will let you draw extra cards at the end of the season from the seed deck, which are cards placed here that can be any of the cards in the forest deck, but it's a way to get more cards. A lot of the plants will be like set collection cards. Some will want 2 or 3, but never 1, as you can, get negative points if you do that. Others you always want to, get a pair. Huckleberries give you food, but when you gain it, if you have an odd number, it's 1 food. If you now have an even number, then it's 3 food. This one gives you 2 food immediately, but then at the end of the season, if you have more water than sun, then you gain 2 points. Here is another set collection with the listed points. Wildfires will make you discard plant cards if you have more than 1 of the wildfires. Heat Wave makes you also discard any card from your forest, and then it counts as, a wildfire card if you have another wildfire already. If you don't, then it gets discarded. Disease. This is only used in a 4-player game. If you have 2, you will discard 2 cards. If you have 3, the disease spreads and all players now have to discard a card from their forest. That's mostly what you'll find in the forest deck, is those cards. Now, the wildlife deck has animals. Remember, you spend food to gain these cards. There are 3 main types of wildlife cards: active, foraging, and just straight up points. Active wildlife has a written ability that can be used once per season. Their ability can be used anytime, once on your turn, including right when you gain it. When you do gain the card, also take the matching token, and when you use its ability, you'll flip that token over so that you know that you already used its ability for that season. Foraging wildlife rewards you for creating ecosystems. Some cards want specific items to match with it, like plants, trees, or certain weather types. At the end of each season, you will gain points based on the condition shown on that card. Lastly, some wildlife scores straight up points again at the end of the game. These are identified by having silver leaves instead of the green. And again, when gaining wildlife, you will want to chain them together. At the end of the game, you will score points for the longest chain, with the longest being up to 7 long. So again, on your turn, you will potentially attract wildlife, paying food, then looking at piles of cards from left to right and selecting 1 pile to add to your forest. You will then add those cards and collect the rewards from what the cards say, and potentially use the activate wildlife abilities if you want to, or if you can. The season deck will then become empty eventually. Players continue playing with the available cards until a player does not have any available piles at the start of their turn. If there is a pile left, there is no passing. Those cards are yours. At this point, at season end, you will use pine cones to draw extra cards. Threats will be applied. You gain points for foraging wildlife cards. The player with the tallest tree will gain the tallest tree award and gain points based on what season that you're in. The tree's canopy is then replaced with the tallest tree award and cannot be used for the tallest tree again. Points for sun and rain icons are awarded, along with the player who has the most. Points are then scored for plants and mushrooms according to their completed sets. And then cleanup is done by flipping all wildlife tokens back to use again and discarding all cards except the wildlife cards. A new season is done by shuffling the cards and going at it again. Each player starts with 4 forest cards. The wildlife cards are reshuffled and 3 random ones are flipped over, and the player with the fewest amount of points starts the new season. At the end of the 3rd season, you will then score like normal, except you will also score your wildlife points. Each pair of wildlife cards score you 2 points, and a family with all 3 cards will score you 5 points each. Then you will score points from your longest chain, scoring according to this chart here. And lastly, each 2 food scores you a point, and the player with the most points wins the game. And, well, that's Canopy Evergreen, a wildlife set collection tree growing game for 1 to 4 players. Some people might say it's too long for a 4-player game. I think that the drafting and the player boards make the game better than just, cards, like it's the 2-player only predecessor does. I like how you play with the same forest cards 3 times to see how well you can do each time while intertwining the wildlife cards within those 3 rounds. The 3 piles of drafting is fun, and you kind of, push your luck a little bit, sometimes regretting not taking a pile after you passed on it. The piles also give certain players access to the cards there, so you can kind of see what those players are going for, or what cards they might want or not want, to know that what might be in there and what might not be in there. But more importantly, you will be trying to get certain cards throughout the game, trying to pair them together each time to get the most points. There are a lot of different aspects to think about, but really the game is pretty rule simple. But the complexity comes in with what cards you get and the ways that you want to go about scoring, because there's different ways to go about doing that. I appreciate this 4-player version of a great 2-player game, and I like some of the new additions that it provides. Again, it can be long waiting on your turn, but everything else in the game is a plus. And so if you are a fan of like the original Canopy, you probably should check this out. Or if you wish to play that game with more than 2 players, then here it is. Again, it's Brody with Let's Table It, where we get games to the table like Canopy Evergreen here. It's the 4-player Canopy version of this game, card game by Weird City Games. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We are working hard to bring to you videos like this one, so you know if these games are ones that you want to get to your own table.